prehistoric Britain and Roman conquest, the history of England begins long before written records in the prehistoric era when early human populations inhabited the island that would later become England. Archaeological evidence indicates settlement as early as 800,000 years ago, with successive waves of hunter-gatherers and later Neolithic farming communities shaping the landscape. Monumental structures such as Stonehenge and Avebury demonstrate advanced social organization and religious practices by the Bronze Age. By the Iron Age, Celtic tribes dominated the region, living in fortified hill settlements and maintaining complex tribal identities. England entered recorded history with the Roman invasion in AD 43 under Emperor Claudius. The Romans gradually subdued much of southern Britain, incorporating it into the Roman Empire as the province of Britannia. Roman rule introduced urbanization, road networks, written administration, and new economic systems. Cities such as Londinium, London, Eboracum, York, and Verulamium flourished as centers of governance and trade. Roman culture coexisted with native traditions, though resistance persisted, most famously in the revolt led by Queen Boudica of the Iceni. By the early 5th century, pressures on the Roman Empire forced the withdrawal of Roman legions, leaving Britain vulnerable to external threats and internal fragmentation. The collapse of Roman authority marked a decisive transition from classical antiquity to the early medieval period in England. Anglo-Saxon England. Following the Roman withdrawal, England experienced profound political and cultural transformation. Germanic peoples, primarily Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, migrated from continental Europe and gradually established control over much of the territory. This period saw the formation of several competing kingdoms, including Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, and East Anglia, a system often referred to as the Heptarchy. Anglo-Saxon society was agrarian, organized around kinship, local lordship, and customary law. Pagan religious practices dominated initially, but the Christianization of England began in the late 6th century with missions such as that of Augustine of Canterbury sent by Pope Gregory the Great. Christianity gradually unified English culture, promoting literacy, scholarship, and centralized authority. Monasteries became centers of learning, producing works such as the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. From the late 8th century onward, Viking invasions disrupted Anglo-Saxon stability. Scandinavian raiders and settlers attacked coastal and riverine communities, eventually establishing control over large areas known as the Danelaw. Resistance culminated under King Alfred the Great of Wessex, who defended his kingdom and laid foundations for a more unified English state. By the 10th century, England was largely consolidated under a single monarchy, though it remained vulnerable to external conquest. Norman conquest and feudal England. In 1066, England underwent one of the most consequential events in its history, the Norman conquest. Following the death of Edward the Confessor, William, Duke of Normandy, claimed the English throne and defeated King Harold Godwinson. At the Battle of Hastings, William's victory transformed England's ruling elite, governance, and culture. The Normans introduced a centralized feudal system, redistributing land to loyal followers and constructing castles to enforce control. French became the language of the aristocracy and administration, while Old English persisted among the common people, eventually blending into Middle English. The Domesday Book of 1086 exemplified Norman administrative sophistication, providing a detailed survey of land and resources. The medieval English monarchy grew increasingly powerful, though tensions with the nobility persisted. The reign of Henry II saw significant legal reforms, including the development of common law. Conflicts between crown and barons culminated in the Magna Carta of 1215, which limited royal authority and established principles of legal accountability. Medieval England was deeply shaped by the church, feudal obligations, and agricultural life, but it was also marked by instability, warfare, and gradual institutional development. Late medieval England and social change. The later medieval period was characterized by crisis and transformation. The 14th century brought famine, most notably the Great Famine of 1315 to 1317, followed by the Black Death, which killed an estimated 1/3 to 1/2 of England's population. These demographic shocks weakened feudal structures, increased labor mobility, and contributed to social unrest. The Peasants' Revolt of 1381 reflected tensions over taxation, labor obligations, and inequality. Politically, England was engaged in prolonged conflict with France during the 100 Years' War, which fostered a sense of national identity but strained resources. Internally, dynastic struggles culminated in the Wars of the Roses, a series of civil wars between rival branches of the royal family. The conflict ended in 1485 with the victory of Henry Tudor at the Battle of Bosworth Field. These upheavals marked the decline of medieval feudalism and set the stage for early modern England. Tudor England and the Reformation. The Tudor period brought political stability and profound religious change. Henry VII strengthened royal authority and restored financial order, while his son Henry VIII initiated the English Reformation. Henry's break with the Roman Catholic Church, motivated by dynastic concerns and political ambition, led to the establishment of the Church of England and the dissolution of monasteries. These changes redistributed wealth and altered religious life. Under Edward VI and Mary I, England oscillated between Protestantism and Catholicism, resulting in persecution and unrest. Elizabeth I's reign established a more enduring Protestant settlement and marked a cultural flourishing known as the English Renaissance. England expanded its naval power, repelled the Spanish Armada in 1588, and began overseas exploration. Tudor England laid foundations for modern governance, religious identity, and imperial ambition. Stuart England and Civil War. The Stuart period was dominated by conflict between monarchy and parliament. James I and Charles I asserted divine right kingship, clashing with parliament over taxation, religion, and authority. These tensions erupted into the English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, resulting in the execution of Charles I and the temporary abolition of the monarchy. Under Oliver Cromwell's Commonwealth, England became a republic in name though authoritarian in practice. The monarchy was restored in 1660, but its power was permanently limited. The Glorious Revolution of 1688 established constitutional monarchy and parliamentary supremacy, enshrined in the Bill of Rights. These events fundamentally reshaped English governance. Georgian England and the Industrial Revolution. The 18th century saw England emerge as a global power. The union with Scotland in 1707 created Great Britain, expanding political and economic influence. Overseas trade, colonial expansion, and naval dominance fueled prosperity. Simultaneously, the Industrial Revolution transformed England's economy and society. Mechanization, factory production, and urbanization altered traditional ways of life. While industrial growth generated wealth, it also produced harsh working conditions and social inequality. Political reform was slow but increasingly demanded by a growing middle and working class. Victorian England. Queen Victoria's reign coincided with the height of Britain's industrial, imperial, and cultural influence. England became the world's leading industrial nation, while the British Empire expanded across continents. Victorian society emphasized moral values, family structure, and social responsibility, though these ideals often masked deep inequalities. Reform movements addressed labor conditions, education, and public health. England's global dominance was accompanied by confidence, but also by growing social tensions and imperial challenges. 20th century England. The 20th century brought unprecedented upheaval. England played a central role in both world wars, suffering immense human and economic losses. The wars accelerated social change, including expanded suffrage and the decline of aristocratic power. After 1945, England participated in the creation of the welfare state, providing healthcare, education, and social security. However, the loss of empire and economic difficulties reshaped national identity. Immigration diversified English society, while debates over Britain's role in the world intensified. Modern England. In recent decades, England has faced complex political, economic, and cultural challenges. Deindustrialization transformed traditional regions, while globalization and technological change reshaped the economy. Constitutional debates intensified, particularly regarding devolution and Britain's relationship with Europe, culminating in Brexit. England today is a multicultural, economically advanced society balancing historical legacy with modern realities. Its history reflects continuity and change shaped by conquest, reform, conflict, and adaptation over millennia.